Today, I'm going to talk to what I consider to be the most important lesson you will learn when you're collecting or investing in sports cards. Whatever it is you want to do, whether it be grading cards, buying boxes, going into group breaks, anything, it does not matter. This will be the most important thing for you to learn. And it essentially goes off of what we spoke about in the last few days regarding these Steph Curry rookies that were fake cards with authenticated autos on them by PSA. And the thing I want to focus in on here is based off the comments that I've seen in that video and then also many others, where you've basically got people hating on PSA for that news, right? They're basically saying, PSA suck, this is why I use BGS, this is why I use SGC. But the message that I'm going to try and talk to today sort of squashes that favoritism, because this will also apply to all the third-party graders. It will apply to all the manufacturers. It will apply to all the group breakers, all the card stores, basically any and every single business that operates within this industry. This will apply. And the key message here is going to be, they're not all as bad as each other, but they all do the same amount of good things and they all do essentially the same amount of bad things. And it's all about you as an individual finding that happy medium, right? You doing your research, because there's never really going to be a one-size-fits-all for every single customer in this industry. As I just mentioned, people were hating on PSA in that specific instance with those Steph Curry fake rookies, right? But then in the same breath, praising the likes of BGS, even though BGS upgraded the same cards, in the same breath, praising SGC. But guess what? SGC also have their own issues. You need to sort of take a step back and look at these things holistically, right? PSA, yes, have a lot of bad things going for them, but they're grading significantly more cards than anybody else. But those same areas are persistent out of BGS and out of SGC. So from my perspective, yes, I think PSA could be doing a heck of a lot better, considering they're meant to be the pedestal, the prime example of grading in this industry. But they're making mistakes, right? But that's why I, as an individual, will do my research before I buy every single card. I don't just sit back there and rely on the label. Now, lots of people talk to this, but not really many people seem to apply it these days. They play way too much favoritism with this sort of stuff. If I'm going to be buying a BGS slab, doesn't matter, right? I look at the card, not the label. I do my research, right? I'm not playing favorites. I'm not jumping down a rabbit hole purely to suit my own agenda towards one company or another, right? I basically hate them all the same. That's the position, I take with most things. The same logic then obviously applies to manufacturers too, where people will see all this mess that's happening with Panini at the moment, right? With the lawsuits, where they're basically saying, F you Panini, you guys have screwed up the hobby, you've monetized it, you've introduced terrible QC, you're trying to just rip people off, you're printing things to death. And they'll be saying those things in the same breath whilst also praising Topps, right? They think Topps is going to be the solution when, in reality, if you look at the mistakes Topps has made over the last 6 months alone, maybe even 12 months with the whole backdoor cards going missing, cards not entering into products that they say they would, and they're not telling customers that those cards aren't in there, i.e. some of those rookies. You've also had instances where they've come out and said they'll do less redemptions, but they've actually put more redemptions in. They said they'd do less parallels, but they've introduced more parallels. So they're sort of contradicting themselves, and people seem to ignore that, right? But the message here is you shouldn't be putting all your faith in a business like Topps, right? You should be applying and approaching Topps buying and collecting the same way you were with Panini, right? You're not going to see things get amazingly better overnight, and you're not going to have them be so fantastically better than what Panini actually is, right? People are thinking Topps is going to be the second coming, right? But it's not the case, right? That's not going to be the case. They're probably going to be the second coming of Damien more than anything else, if you are to believe things like I do. It's just an interesting one because people are again playing favoritism there, when in reality, if you look at things on face value and you've seen what Panini has done and you've seen what Topps has done recently, well, hang on a minute, they're actually not too dissimilar. And it's almost a little crazy to think one is going to be so much better over the other. Now, I know I've probably contradicted myself here based on videos I've put out in the past, because I do have hope that Fanatics and Topps will make things better. I do have hope that BGS and PSA will get better and all these sorts of things. But in reality, that's a bit of wishful thinking, to be honest. So for the most part, I sit back and say, well, I'm just going to treat you guys the same. And that's how you should be approaching things. That's the biggest lesson you can learn in this industry, that it sort of doesn't matter which business is manufacturing these cards, which company you're going to as a third-party grader, which breaker you're using. It shouldn't change how you approach collecting. It shouldn't change how you approach your investing or flipping, whatever it is you want to do. You should be approaching it the same. People place too much emphasis on these businesses being incredibly good for them or bad for them, right? That should be irrelevant, completely irrelevant to the whole situation. You just need to sit back, have your fun with collecting, buy what you want to buy, grade what you want to grade, break what you want to break, but do it through the same lens. Apply that same level of due diligence. I know I'm talking in complete circles right now. I haven't really prepped any notes for this. This was just a thought in the back of my mind, as I said at the very start of this video, based on some comments I was seeing on that Steph Curry video, based on comments I've seen over the last few months. There is just way too much favoritism in this industry. And I think, again, I'll repeat myself, the biggest lesson you'll learn is to sort of block that sort of stuff out. You just sit back, have fun, collect what you want to collect. People get too much, people let, this negative news or this positive news impact them too much. It's all the same. It goes for content creators as well, where people are sort of shitting on the likes of these positive guys, but then also praising me. But then you've got the positive guys shitting on me, but then praising the other positive guys, even though technically we're all one and the same, right? It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. You're all still collectors, right? You should be looking at things through the same lens. You can learn something from all these content creators. It's just an interesting one how people play favorites or people approach this kind of thing. People put too much into that in-group, out-group mentality that I've also discussed before. Just have fun, buy your cards, collect your cards, have fun. Doesn't matter where you're buying your stuff from, apply the same due diligence, look at things through the same lens. And that'll be the best lesson you can learn, because that means you can do what? You sit back and can have fun irrespective of what is actually happening out there, irrespective of what news is coming through, irrespective of what, a third-party grader has decided to do, because they are all the same. They all make the same mistakes, irrespective of what a manufacturer does, because guess what? They're all there to try and make money. They're all there to, print shit to death. They don't really care about you all that much. And the second you learn that, the second you can have a lot more fun in this space. And I just think people get too caught up on playing favorites. And by playing favorites, I mean, you being a fan of a sport, right, a sporting team. You're going to basically follow that team until the day you die. You're going to follow them through thick and thin. If you're a fanatical fan like I am, the second that team loses, your whole week is ruined. That kind of mindset, yes, it works for sports, but it doesn't really work for collecting, because there's just way too much stuff out there to indicate that these places are all the same. They're all as good as each other. They're all as bad as each other. You just need to pick and choose what you want to buy, when you want to jump into things to suit yourself best, and don't really listen to what anyone's saying for the most part on why a company is bad or why a company is good. You sit back, you do your own research, and you'll have the most fun. That's essentially the point I was trying to make today. Bloody ramble, as always. I do apologize. I just love, talking to this sort of stuff, because it's interesting to see based on, the comments and all that sort of thing. Now, I've seen something interesting in the last 12 or so hours from the Real 27 guy on Instagram about an Allen Iverson card, similar to what we spoke to with the Steph Curry rookies yesterday, actually, about how there's a card that somebody put a fake stamp on, got it autographed in person, sent it into PSA, and PSA have labeled it as a trading card, not indicating that it is an altered card, similar to the themes we spoke about in that Steph Curry video. Probably talk to this tomorrow, so just let me know your thoughts on what we discussed today. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know, whether you think the same as me, whether you think these companies are all as good as each other, all as bad as each other, or if you think I'm just talking out my ass. So it is what it is. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.